Hello and welcome to my creative space. Thank you so much for being here with me today. Welcome to another DIY video. If you're not already, I would love for you to subscribe and join this creative squad. And if you're new here, welcome. I'm so happy that you're here. And for today's video, I have 4 farmhouse decor ideas. I hope you're excited to see how I created them. So let's get started. For this DIY, I'm going to use this Dollar Tree sign in the square shape. Now, these are 2 canvases that I glued together and I used for a past project. And these are just scraps of wood that I am going to be using. I am going to start with the thicker pieces. These are going to be my legs. So I am going to be cutting them in half. That way I can have 4 legs. And I'm also going to be taking this other wooden piece. It's actually siding. If you see my videos, I'm pretty sure you already saw me use that. I had this little piece left over and that's what I wanted to use for this chair, so I took it and I marked exactly where I need to cut, and then I just traced a line. That way when I take them outside to cut them with a hacksaw, the line is there and it guides me. Here are all my pieces cut off. Now this frame, I was gonna leave it how it is, but then I changed my mind and I decided to cut the top off. Now the leftover pieces that I cut off, you could use those to put them in the middle instead of the siding. That would be a good idea, but I still decided to go with the siding just because, I don't know, I like them better. But I'm gonna take my glue gun now and I'm going to start gluing my 2 little sticks in there, and I'm just gonna hold them there. They held pretty good, but if you want to use a strong adhesive, you could do it and you would probably be safe using a strong adhesive. I left it with just hot glue and this is what it's looking like. Now I am going to be taking the little sign that I bought from Dollar Tree. I'm removing that little sign that it had because it was a little sticking up and I didn't like that, so I removed it. But anyway, now I'm going to start gluing the legs onto this, and I use the same hot glue that I always use. You could use a strong adhesive if you want to have a peace of mind, but mine held up pretty good. Here is what it's looking like. Now it's time to glue the back of this chair. Now here you could glue it how I'm gonna do it on the back, or you can glue it on the top. I feel like it would have looked nicer on the top just because it's kind of floating, as you can see, but I still love it, but that is just an option. To paint my chair, I'm going to be using my acrylic white matte paint, and I'm going to be painting this whole thing. Now for the actual seat, I will do a couple of layers just because it had that sign and is in the color black and it kind of shows through with just 1 layer. So I will do 2 layers of paint on there. Once the paint has dried, I'm going to be taking my antique wax from Waverly and I am going to be distressing my little chair. Now here, you could skip it or you could do something else. I decided to distress it. I really love how it turns out. And yeah, I just had fun doing this. And now here is the end result. Here is how I styled my little chair and I am in love with it. Let me know what you think. For DIY number 2, I am going to take 4 bamboo cutting boards from the Dollar Tree, as well as 2 pieces of scrap wood that are a little bigger than the cutting boards. Now, you could use Dollar Tree signs for this because we are going to paint them anyway, but it will be up to you, or you can make all the boxes the exact same size. That will be up to you. Once I have my pieces there, I'm going to take my first cutting board and I am going to basically find the middle and trace that because we are going to take 2 of these, actually 2 cutting boards, and we are going to be cutting those in the middle. Now that I have them, I took them outside and used my hacksaw to trim them, and then I'm just sanding them to help the edges stay a little smoother. Now I am going to take my first bamboo cutting board in my 2 halves, and I am going to use some hot glue and some E6000 glue because we need something strong to hold them. I tried just hot glue and it was a fail, so I end up having to get a stronger adhesive to be able to hold these pieces in place. Now I'm gonna take this other piece. Ignore that it's cut in half. It should be the full-on bamboo cutting board. and just trace it to the size that you need it. And then I took it outside as well, and I cut it with my hacksaw. Now I took some Jenga blocks and some hot glue and some E6000 glue to help these pieces stay in place and make sure they're going to be secured. Now this should be the full on cutting board. Ignore that it's cut in half. It was my mistake. I do end up gluing this together later, but basically this is going to be the back. So you need one from the front, one for the back, and one for the two sides. And I'm also going to be using some Jenga blocks to secure that piece into place. And once I have that, I am going to move on to the bigger piece. Now here are my cutting boards are a little bit too big, so I marked them, and I'm gonna take them outside and trim them. Once I trim them, I'm gonna do the exact same thing I did with the other bamboo cutting boards, where I glued my pieces with hot glue and E6000 glue. And I will use some Jenga blocks as well and secure these pieces into place. And I'm gonna do the exact same thing on the other side. And as you can see, I am not gluing the sides right on the edge. I left a little bit of space just because that's the look I wanted to go for, but that will be up to you. Now I am going to take my smaller piece of wood that will be the back of this box, and I will be adding some hot glue and E6000, and I am going to be gluing that into place. And yeah, that is all I'm gonna do for now. And now I am going to take my acrylic matte white paint, and I will be painting these boxes. Now I'm gonna take some foam board. Excuse that it's dirty. That's the only foam board I had. And I took a pencil and traced the bottom of my box. And once I have it traced, I'll take my crafting knife and I will be cutting off the shape that I traced. Now you could use a piece of wood. You could use some popsicle sticks. You could use a Dollar Tree sign. I just went with the foam board because that's all I had. But anyway, so as you can see now, it fits perfect. Now I'm gonna push it in there, make sure everything is nice, and I am going to flip it over and I am going to add some hot glue to glue this to the box, and it works really good. Now that I am done, here you have the box. Now it's dirty on the inside, but we're not gonna see it. Now I am going to take some Dollar Tree stickers and I am going to be spelling farm on the smaller box and then house on the bigger box. Now don't mind the top box, the bottom was not nicely done, but then I went back in there with some paint and covered that up, so it was nice. But anyway, so I'm just placing my letters where I need them to go, and before I push them all the way down or stick them all the way down, I'll just make sure that they are all aligned. And now that that is done, it's time to move on to the next step. I had these two wired hangers that I will be using for hangers for my boxes, and basically I just bent them back and forth and until I removed that piece off that I didn't need. Now I am going to take my ruler and find the middle of my box. I will add some hot glue to the wire and I will glue it down. Now of course that's not gonna hold it into place, so I took my hand stapler. I don't know what that is called. Is that what it's called? It's a stapler, but it's like a grown-up stapler, I guess. And then I took some of this canvas sheets that I removed from one of my projects, and I just glued that to the back. That way when I hang it, it's not gonna scratch my wall. And then I just took some floral foam and glue it to the bottom of this box. And once I had it glued down, I took some of this Spanish moss to fill it in and cover up those foams. And I took this greenery that I picked up from Walmart. It was like $1, and I just shove it in there, and I really like how this is looking. For the smaller box, I decided to go with this Dollar Tree greenery. I am not sure what it's called. I did not look at the tag, but it has the little white balls. And I thought it was perfect because this one was going to have some cotton in it and I wanted to fill it up a little bit more. So I added my 2 stems of cotton and then I kept adding the little greenery from Dollar Tree. And here is the end result. I love how these boxes turned out. They're one of my favorite. Let me know what you think. For my next DIY, I'm taking one of these Dollar Tree trays. I think that's what they're called. But anyway, I am going to take my acrylic white paint and I am going to be painting all the 4 sides on these. I'm not painting the middle because these popsicle sticks are going to do that job. I'm going to take these jumbo popsicle sticks and I am going to cut them to the size I need them to cover up the bottom of this tray. You can use any popsicle sticks. I just decided to go with these ones because they're bigger and I'm going to need less. But any popsicle stick will do the job. Once I figure out how big they need to be, I'll take that one as the example, I guess, and I'll start cutting all the popsicle sticks. Now that I have all my pieces ready to go, I am going to take my wood stain and I will be staining all of these popsicle sticks with it. I'll stain the front and back. You don't have to stain the back because it will be glued down. I just decided to do it. But anyway, now I am going to take my popsicle sticks once they dried and I am going to start gluing them to the bottom. Once I got to the end, my popsicle stick was a little bit too big, so I had to cut it down. I just kept cutting until it was to the size I needed it, and then I finally took some hot glue and glue my last piece. For this sign, I decided I wanted it to say hello spring. So for the word hello, I took some vinyl in my best friend's Cricut machine, and I cut the word hello. For the word spring, you could use some stickers, or you could, if you have a Cricut machine, you could cut the words. I just decided to use the word spring that I already had. It came from one of the Dollar Tree signs. I actually used it on one of my past videos. I just repainted it in the color pink. Now I am going to take my Waverly antique wax and I am going to be distressing the sides just because I really like that look. You could leave it just white if you wanted to, but I am going to be distressing mine. Now, to further decorate this sign, I decided to take some of these flowers that came from Walmart. It was actually $1, and these little greenery pieces that came from the Dollar Tree, and I am going to be gluing each flower on the opposite corner and the greenery right below it. And now to make this sign stand, I took this picture holder, I think that's what they're called, and here is the end result. I love how cute and springy this sign turned out. For this DIY, I'm taking this adorable bowl I picked up from the Dollar Tree. Now, I am going to start by grabbing some baking soda, white paint, and a little bit of black paint to create a darker gray color. Once I have my mixture thick enough, I am going to start by stamping it onto the words because they are engraved and I don't want them to show through. I want to make sure that everything is covered up so it doesn't look like they're there. So I'm going to take this Dollar Tree brush, sponge brush, and I'm going to push that paint baking soda mixture into the words first. Once I have them covered up, I will continue to paint with the smaller brush, and I'm just doing stamping motions, and I'm gonna flip it over so it's easier for me to control. Fun fact about this project, I really loved this little bowl when I saw it at the Dollar Tree, but I didn't pick it up because I wasn't sure if I was going to use it. So I was paying, and then I got the idea to create a candle. So I left my basket in line and I went and grabbed this little bowl, and I'm happy that I did it because I really love how this project turned out. Anyway, back to the project. So I grabbed some more white paint and the tiniest bit of black paint to create a lighter gray color. I did not add baking soda to this one. I grabbed a piece of a dish sponge from the Dollar Tree and I started stamping it with that. I feel like it gives it the dimension that I'm trying to go for this bowl, and then I make sure that I also painted the rim of this. Now I took a paper towel to wipe the paint that got inside just so it it looks clean. Now that I have that, I took my sterling silver acrylic paint and another piece of the dish sponge, and I started stamping it on there. I am just going to do where I think it needs it, and I'm just gonna keep stamping. Just have fun and just stop whenever you think it's enough. That is just what I did with mine, and I think it turned out amazing. Now, I took one of these glass candles that the Dollar Tree sells. They're the bigger ones, and I put it in this pot with water and boil it until it finally melted. And once I have that, I am going to pour it into my bowl and just make sure that you're holding the candle wick. That way it doesn't like slide down. Now that I probably needed two of them, but I ended up using this one, and I used another of the medium-sized pillars that had scent, and that way my candle was going to be scented. Now I took some brown chalk paint and I kind of added it onto my little bowl to make it look like it was rusted. And then finally, when it was dried, when my candle was dried, I removed the little stick and I cut down my candle wick. And here is the end result. I love how this candle turned out, but definitely my favorite were the first two DIYs. You let me know in the comments down below which one was your favorite DIY in today's video. Also, don't forget to subscribe before you leave, and I will see you on my next DIY. Bye!